might raise some eyebrows, but it's good. And I think that, you know, anytime I can encourage anybody to make any component of Linux better, whether it's through the MeeGo project or through Fedora, through KDE, or through GNOME, it's all goodness, right? So in that aspect, you know, the fact if Nokia is reducing their investment in MeeGo and Linux as a result of their Windows Phone 7 strategy, obviously I'm disappointed, right? Because I want to encourage that investment, but you know, they got to do what they got to do. You know, the fortunate thing for all of us Linux fans out there is that you know, companies and alliances don't get to pick what is the leader in any particular industry out there. Consumers do, right? And so I'm pretty confident that there are plenty of Linux offerings out there, including MeeGo, but also Android and WebOS and others that offer very, very compelling value. And I don't know if do most of you guys following MeeGo? There is some good work going on there, guys. I mean, there really is. You know, projects are going to have fits and starts and hiccups, and it's going to be public, and it's going to look stupid sometimes, and it'll look really smart sometimes. But I can't argue with fundamental work that goes on within that project, regardless of any road bumps on the way. So,
thanks.
Yes.
So we have time for one more question. Wade, you were really quick at Wade?
Your fourth point on the move to services,
yeah,
to me seemed a bit like the razor blade and the razor model, where the hardware becomes free and irrelevant, and you're selling the razor blades over time.
Yeah.
In that model, to a degree, Linux is part of the razor itself, right? I mean, how it's tough to say your the hardware is a commodity, but that the OS/firmware so close to the metal is not also the commodity.
Well, I think it is.
So what does that mean for revenue streams for Linux, or the Linux Foundation being somewhat irrelevant and masked from a lot of the consumption and the interesting data flow?
Yeah. So I mean, you never become irrelevant completely, because you know, everyone's like well, the operating system is going to be irrelevant. I mean, at some point you have to have something that communicates with the silicon, right? I mean, it's not going to always be completely irrelevant. I just think that you'll have different revenue sources than you may have had in the past as a result, right? I think that I think it's recognizing that maybe the operating system in some cases becomes less visible, or a less, you know, sort of transparent source of value, recognizing in that, and then using the operating system to leverage some other form of, you know, value creation, I think is really important. I honestly, I think that's one of the things that Microsoft is horrendous at, right? I mean, they're still they're clinging, right, to the, which they should. They make a ton of money off of that, but by clinging to that, no, really the OS must be important, and it must have this set of you know, APIs, and everyone has to use those, I think is a big mistake. I think looking at the relative role of the OS in terms of making it incredibly useful, or as a form of enabling access to internet data or to other forms of value, is something that's really, really useful. And so that's why I kind of look at it that way. But I mean, I don't think the OS will be dead forever. I just think it shifts in terms of its, you know, visibility, its role, what functionality it has, and its place in the value chain. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm interested because obviously you're talking about a desktop paradigm, and certainly we have a lot of desktop-centric interest in momentum here, and you want to see where you provide value going forward to people with that model.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there are tons of ways that, you know, the desktop adds value to people in terms of accessing these services, or in terms of enabling people to do things in a more in a way that fits the way that data consumption and technology use is moving, rather than trying to kind of hold on to the past. I mean, because I believe that this is the reality that we're facing moving forward, which fortunately truly, fortunately, very much favors open source and Linux.
Okay, well, thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you, guys.
So now we have a 15-minute break. We have some coffee. So let's settle down again about 10:45, and we'll talk about personal information management. If you have a mug sitting in front of you, please claim it, so that way we can tell whether we need to pull more mugs out. Also, if you choose to use your mug today during the coffee break, I would strongly suggest running to the restroom and rinsing it out first.